But before we do that, let's get ready and bring in Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, to help us not only analyze what's going on in these numbers as they come out here momentarily, but also what's going on in the overall market. Scott, I'm curious your take right off the bat here as we wait for these numbers. How do you feel about the stimulus plan coming out and the impact it may have? Because it looks like the dollar continues to sell off no matter what.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, the dollar rally that we saw over the last week, 2 weeks or so, JB, that was actually pretty impressive because there was some pretty stiff resistance in the dollar right around that 94 level, and it breached through it. But you're absolutely right. It looked to me like the dollar needs to sell off, should have sold off. And obviously, if the talks of the stimulus package get heated up a little bit and we get closer, that should, be cause for that sell-off.
So I want to bring up the numbers here, Scott. They just came in a little bit here as I'm looking at them. It looks like the trade balance came in at a negative $82.94 billion. That's a little bit higher than it was prior month at negative $80.11 billion. Retail inventories ex autos came in at 0.9 versus 0.6. I'm curious your take on it. I'm looking here at the market. Doesn't really seem to be moving one way or the other.
No, there's two things that the market is really looking at, traders are looking at, is the debate tonight and what the reaction is going to be to that. And then the jobs number on Friday, which is the last unemployment number, monthly unemployment number we're going to get before the election. So those are really the two big things on the docket.
So and I think that makes sense. I'm curious about your take here. And again, the reason we've talked a little bit about treasuries, we've been talking a little bit of yields throughout the whole entire show. It just seems like they're continued. That seems to be the choice for anybody concerned, is that flight to safety is going into the treasuries. We have a slew. I mean, I think we have every single Fed possible speaker coming through. Here the numbers are on the board, but I think we have every single Fed speaker other than Chairman Powell talking today. I'm curious, can they say anything that might actually end up moving this market, or will that be like these retail inventory numbers, really not much of a mover overall?
No, there's not going to be anything, JB, and we'll see headlines throughout the day that, maybe one of the Fed governors, maybe Fed Kaplan or, someone's going to come out and say something that maybe is a little bit more hawkish than people think, and we may see a temporary blip in the market. But there's nothing that the Fed is going to say today that will move this market. I really believe we're going to have a positioning day today, meaning that, many big retail funds may be positioning ahead of this debate here, and we'll see what shakes out tomorrow. But there's nothing that they are going to say, especially without Powell speaking, that's going to move this market.
So I want to switch back because I think we were talking about the dollar here, and I think that's the one market here that really has kind of got me confused because it feels like the world wanted right. I mean, it feels like the world wanted a weaker dollar to get the stocks going higher. We got the weaker dollar coming into play. I felt as though there was just a big oversell, like you said a little bit earlier. I'm just wondering, can we have a point where a dollar can be bouncing around that 94 level, still be bullish for stocks, kind of what we had sort of in that old 2019 trade, which was strong dollar, okay, equity markets still positive?
Right. Think about where the dollar was, like you just mentioned earlier this year and last year. It was up around par, right?
Yep.
And the market was just off to the races. So it's a little bit different environment right now. And I think that, what is really overtaking everything are two things in terms of the dollar, the potential stimulus package here and what happens there, and then the elections again. And we didn't have that a year ago, or we had it, but it was off in the backs of everyone's mind. So can we get that dollar rally and the market moving at the same time? We probably can post-November. Up in, for the next 6 weeks or so, I don't think so.
No, and I think that makes sense. I think the part that I was looking at here and I was curious about is I've been kind of paying attention, and I'm going to start off here with the euro, because I feel as though the euro was really the benefiter of the dollar. But you look at it now, I mean, the euro is pretty much given back almost all of the gains it had. You turn around and take two numbers that come out, some CPI numbers. Spain's come out, which are pretty good. Germany's come out that seem a little bit weak. You couple that with some increasing coronavirus cases, it makes me wonder a little bit of if whether or not the euro itself may start to weaken, which then could prop that dollar up. Is there anything that's helping the euro now at this point?
Well, not only everything you just said, but how about more of the Brexit uncertainty and what may happen across the entire region there? So it's not just the euro, it's the pound as well. what can help the euro? I honestly, I think it would be a pullback in coronavirus cases if they start to, we start to see headlines that maybe things have calmed down a little bit and they're getting back to a reopening. Other than that, right now in the short run, I don't see it.
So the last currency I want to talk to you about here is the yen. I feel like this has sort of become the forgotten trade. Look, I understand Abe stepped down, there's a transition, but really no move or change in their overall fiscal and monetary policy. We had seen a nice move that pushed it to its highest level against the dollar since way back in March. Not just about a week ago. Now all of a sudden sort of selling off with the dollar. I'm wondering, is this sort of that quiet trade that may be able to come into play at some point?
It has been in the back rearview mirror. It's taken a back seat, really. You don't see headlines there with the Japanese yen, and I think any sell-off there is really ripe for investors or for retail traders to come in. I still think that along with the dollar, the Japanese yen is that safe haven, and I think as we get closer to the elections here, you may see it propped up.
So I know I'm going to turn our attention, I'm sliding to a completely unrelated, but I do feel that there's some correlation here, and it has to do with crude, just because I've been really fascinated with this trade. And the reason I've been fascinated is it feels like 40 is like a lid, right? And every time it tries to work its way either above or below, I mean really above, it'll work it for a little bit, but we start to continue talking about, hey, the economy feels like it's getting better. You had the Russell with a big moves across the board, sort of uncertain economic conditions. I guess my question here is, wouldn't you expect a bit into the demand coming through here? We've had those draws, should really help crude get through this price level of 40, or is there something else in that marketplace from the supply side that we kind of aren't paying attention to?
I think it's actually a combination of both. Even though some of the economic numbers may be getting better, when I look around, when I see my business associates, my friends, my world of people, they're still not going out. They're still not driving. They're still not using, even public transportation. So, when you break it down to, the basics like that, the demand to me is still not there. But there may be something on the supply side also, JB, that there still is just an oversupply. And coming out of the Middle East, how much longer are they going to continue with this? So, that lid on crude of 40, maybe 40 and a half or so, until it breaks out of that range there, I'm a big believer that the demand destruction, albeit not as bad as it was earlier in the year, is still the prevailing point with crude.
So, Scott, before I let you go here, obviously we've talked about a lot of the volatility, uncertainty, some possible sideways trading kind of here through the election. I guess if you're looking here at this week, because I do think, non-farm payroll is going to be just absolutely enormous number here that the market is already looking at. I'm going to kind of push the debate a little bit aside, because I think that's going to be more short-term volatility overnight than really reactive. I guess, is there anything else you're looking at? Is the inflation, the PCE numbers coming out here, I think it's on Wednesday or tomorrow, are those numbers that we should be keeping an eye on? Again, may not go and do a big move to the market. Is that what you're looking at, or is there something else that we should have out there, or are you just pretty much, I'm focused on that non-farm payroll number?
The other thing I've been keying in on, and if we look at yields and we look at the 10-year right now, they're the lowest in about a month. And the 10-year just dipped below the 50-day moving average for the first time since like the middle of July. So, why is that happening as well? Are we getting a bid up in bonds as kind of a safe trade right now? And is that why yields are going down? So I think that actually begets some of the uncertainty, not only about the debate, but the closer and closer and closer we're getting to the election. That is some of the uncertainty. And I'm really keeping a close eye on the yields there, especially the 10-year.
Scott, I appreciate you coming on. Again, you're the ultimate utility player. You're able to work your way through. It doesn't matter what I throw at you. You always make sure that our viewers have the right thing on their radar, keeping an eye on these markets, especially in these volatile ones as we get closer and closer to this election. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, JB.
Everyone, that was Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joining us.